Hey, what's going on, crew? It's your boy Serrano. Welcome back to the channel. How's everybody doing? Hope y'all had a good day and everything like that. But today we're gonna take a look at the Motorola One P30 Play. It has a 5.9-inch 720 times 1520 pixel display with a 13 megapixel camera paired along with another 2 megapixel with a depth sensor. Now you are getting 4K recording, and you are getting 1080p as well, and also you do get not only that, but you get 60 frames per second when you're recording in 1080p, which is crazy. This thing does also have a plastic frame as well. It's not real aluminum, but you also do get like Gorilla Glass on the front, and a really nice display as well, because it's actually going to be able to be usable in broad daylight and everything like that. So I didn't have really any issues with that and whatsoever. But you can see that these cameras are actually really nice. They're kind of really flush to the phone as well. Also, this thing is running on a really nice software right now. It was upgradable from 8.1 Oreo all the way up to the Android 9.0 Pie, Android One. But this is the Chinese version, which is a little bit different than the Motorola One that you see in like like the Walmart or something like that, or Amazon. But this thing is actually pretty sick overall, so I didn't have any issues with it. As you can see, it did have that 4K Ultra HD, as well as 1080 frames, 60 frames per second, and 30 frames per second with the watermark as well. You do get a lot of options in here to like mess around with and things to like customize it with, which was cool. But besides that, this thing did give you 287 pixels per inch. You also get 1080 30 frames per second on the rear facing 13 megapixel camera, 1080 60 frames per second right here as well, and 4K, which is crazy. So you were just getting a variety of different options to choose from when it came to the cameras, and viewing angles were actually adequate. I wasn't experiencing any in like screen dimming or anything like that. Everything just seemed to be working perfectly fine. When it came to night footage, everything seemed to work perfectly fine as well. As you can see right here, there wasn't pretty much any issues with nighttime photography or cinematography either. Overall, this thing, for under $200, you pretty much were getting top of the line cameras in the budget price point. They're above, they were top in the class as well. But the viewing angles on this thing were really good too. As you can see right here, like any angle you threw at it, you basically got a really good look at the screen, no matter what. It didn't dim out, or the IPS display wasn't really like dull or at all, just to say the least. But I was really impressed with the overall quality that I was getting from the rear and the front facing camera. But in low light, you could see I was in a pitch black room, and I was just looking out the window, and what happened was that there was like some kind of recording crew right here outside the building, and they had the scaffolds out with the lights and everything, and they must have been like shooting like some kind of movie outside of here. But it was pretty crazy. The 60 frame per second 1080 camera was actually looking really good, and I was actually able to get some really good angles with this thing, with the front and rear. So like, no matter what, this was like the 4K footage as well, which was really nuts. And tell me what you guys think about that. I definitely think it looked pretty good. But overall, the color science that the Motorola One P30 Play used was actually pretty decent. It was pretty accurate and true to life, as you can see there. The perspectives and different depths of view was actually pretty cool. And I was just kind of playing around with that in these couple of images, as you can see right here. Just a really nice warm, like winter day and everything like that, like in the middle of February. So honestly, it was like a perfect time to like get some really good photography and cinematography too. But honestly, that portrait mode was really good. It didn't blow out the background too much, but even in the nighttime, it definitely did a good job as well too with the rear camera. This camera did offer a lot of different things to play around with, as well as 32 times zoom, which you can see right here, and just a ton of different features like slow motion, time lapse, like panorama, different features like portrait, split color, cinematograph, and some other different features you can mess around with as well. But overall, this thing came fully loaded for a budget device that you were using for under $200. You couldn't ask for anything more. And if you did, then you were pretty much like pushing it, because like phones that the prepaid carriers use still haven't came out with a phone with a 4K camera, but this thing is actually able to record in 4K and 60 frames per second, which I haven't seen on a prepaid carrier for a budget phone either. So honestly, this thing is definitely doing the thing. It does have a 720 display, which is probably the one thing that it's compromising with, but honestly, those colors and everything that it did have to offer, I didn't really complain with, because it was actually pretty good. Now the only thing that I can say is this thing does go in between like the 4G LTE. It does have that to offer, but sometimes it can go down into the like the 4G, which is weird, but it's still pretty cool, because you don't really like notice like any difference with the speed or anything like that. But you are getting a variety of options to choose from. If you were to use the cameras with this thing, you can see that it's giving you a ton of different modes to play around with, and you could just like you know like try to tailor the image to your own personal preference, if you're like one of those like freaks that like want to be in control fully with the camera and everything like that. But actually, this thing does have NFC on board, which is nuts, because you're going to be able to make mobile payment and everything through your device. You won't have to carry like your wallet or anything. As long as you have like your credit card attached to this thing, it's going to work perfectly fine. The charging is actually pretty good. It's 15 watts fast charging, which actually is really fast, with 3000 milliamp hour battery as well. So honestly, I didn't have any issues with that. So this thing definitely was able to give you a solid performance. It was really snappy as well when you were using the UI of this thing. It was really stock Android, with the Android One, which came along with it. But you can see that the cameras that this thing did have to offer were really sharp in multiple environments that I was in. As you can see, that the sun is really bright in this environment that I'm in right now, but the sky still is retained within the background and foreground too. So honestly, I was really shocked that I was getting so much detail when it came to this front-facing camera, which was only like 8 megapixels, but it still did a really good job of giving me everything that I desired to see, and that that display was actually like giving you a lot of different colors that were really punchy and were able to satisfy like most people. Even though they weren't like super AMOLED, it was definitely like enough for my naked eye and everything like that. So I didn't really have too much to complain about when it came to that. But when it came to the features that the camera was offering, it did offer this slow-mo feature, which I was able to pick up right here, which is actually pretty cool, because you could see that car had a really nice design to it. And I was able to pick up that thing passing by through the street, like right in front of me, which was nuts. And the detail that this thing did have to offer was crazy, because even in the background I'm able to see like everything that's happening way far in front of me, and it's not like you're getting like a bad experience with this camera. It's actually a lot better than other phones that I've been using, that are like twice the price, which is nuts. You can get this thing for like $130 right now, which I haven't seen before. Like for a phone that can offer you 4K and Dolby Audio. The speakers were actually really impressive on this thing, and I wasn't complaining about like pretty much anything that it was offering, because the price was like pretty good right now for what this thing can give you. Um, like when it first came out, a lot of people were like holding back and they weren't gonna pull the trigger because this thing was like $400 or something, like $399. But the P30 version was always like half that price, because it was the Chinese version and it's a lot cheaper to import it. So that the price was definitely a lot better. But let me know what you guys think about this phone. Let me know if it's something that you would like actually look forward to like picking up or something. But I appreciate you 100%. If you found this helpful, hit the like button. Definitely appreciate it for the last one of you. Hit the bell icon if you found it helpful. But have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and I'll check you on the next one. Peace.